This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in the NFL here on the PTBN Sports Network 2.0. I'm one of your hosts, the Cowboy, and my co-host, who you all know and love, John D'Amato, is here. Hey, John.
Hello, Roger, and hopefully the celebration has stopped in your area. We're
stopped.
Peel back the curtain. We're in the daytime. I'm saying hopefully people went to work today in Boston after. It's a Friday afternoon, the afternoon after the Red Sox made the World Series. Hopefully somebody went to work today, or did the city just shut down?
You know, there were some people at work today. So, great point, John. We're, due to some traveling constraints for your hosts this week, where we're actually recording a day later than usual. We're here Friday afternoon, about 1 o'clock Eastern time. I think the positive to this, John, is that normally this wouldn't be a positive, but we didn't have to talk about the Thursday night game.
Yeah, we like to get it in before that Thursday night game, and it wasn't exactly a riveting contest, boy, I tell you. The Thursday night jinx is back. The first few weeks were great, and then starting with last week's decimation by the Eagles, and this week the Thursday night is back to woo-fa.
The funny thing, it's usually been like kind of historically, Thursday's a little better for the home team, and we've got two weeks in a row where the home team just gets crushed.
Yeah, the first those are the only two home losses of the year. The home teams dominate up until the New York Giants, which we'll talk less and less of. I hear a lot of people complain that we talk too much about the Patriots, yada yada. But as the season goes on and it gets colder. The good teams step up and contend, and we'll be talking about the contending teams, and we'll be talking less about the Giants, and we'll be talking less about like Tampa Bay, which we were hot on after 2 weeks, talking about title contenders, but we won't be talking about them too much, I have a feeling. So we're just going to keep it to the contenders. So I'm sorry, but the game of the week involved a certain team from Boston. So
it's true. It's true.
We're going to have to cover it.
Great segue, and I completely agree, John. We get an hour a week here. Now that things are starting to shake out, we can concentrate our focus where it should be, which is not on anybody, 1-5 or below.
Thank you.
So let's start off. I think you just brought it up during last week's show. We talked about Chiefs Patriots as potential shootout, definitely game of the week. Kind of get to see what. Where the Chiefs are at, going into Foxborough in prime times, tough assignment. But also where the Patriots are at after a rough start. They seem to have righted the ship and, started off a little slow, but man, what an offensive explosion. What a game. It's one of the most fun games I've ever watched, regardless of the result. What do you think?
Yes, history was made as the Patriots, the first team in history that was 0 punts and 0 penalties in the game. That's quite an accomplishment. Of course, the Hatriots will say that, they never call any penalties on the Patriots. Of course, it's a conspiracy, but that just goes to well coaching. And they could have kept their punter deactivated, and they could have used their roster spot for somebody else.
Did they punt in the Super Bowl? I don't think they did, right? They were like one of the first five teams in the modern era to lose a game where they didn't punt. It almost happened again.
Yeah. But Andy Reid is going to have to figure out something, and his defensive coordinator, Sutton, is going to have to figure out a way to at least try to that was the key, I think. In the first half, they held Mahomes to 3 field goals. And they got those turnovers on him, and eventually the dike bursted, and they couldn't stop him in the second half. But those first half stops on the field goals, that was enough to carry him through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mahomes looked a little, maybe a little tight at the beginning, and Belichick threw some different looks at him. But once he settled down,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know their defense isn't very good, but very rarely do you see a team that like you could legitimately see them shooting their way out to a Super Bowl title. I mean, if this is the AFC title game, which it very well could be, and it very well could be in Kansas City, I mean that's a coin flip game. Yeah, I know it's Brady and all the mystique, but the Chiefs' offense is as good, if not better, than the Patriots' offense. And I mean, it was one of those like when Tyreek Hill caught the long touchdown, everybody in New England said, "Yes, they left us enough time." Like we all had the fear that they were just gonna kill the clock.
Right, there was all the time in the world was on the board. Sure.
Really, the game played out very similarly to the Super Bowl without the old sack fumble that happened in the Super Bowl.
Right. I would have been curious. They got that right away. They got that 3rd and 1, and White got the first down. I would have been curious if not that KC even came close to stopping, but if it was a 4th down. That would have been a juicy decision to see what Bill would have done if they could have stopped him on that 3rd down.
I think he's going for it. With the way that offense was playing, would you have trusted the defense to stop him from getting a first down? I think he would go for anything 4th and 10 or less.
It goes back to that game 10 years ago versus the Colts where he got scorched, but his reasoning was either way, whether we give him the ball at the 30 or their own 30, they're still going to score on us. We can't stop them. So, you remember the game I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Kevin Falk caught the 4th down pass and was short, and
right.
the Colts won. Peyton Manning, but he was going up and down the field at him. Same
Bill
thing
got
here.
killed for that, but his reasoning was that we weren't going to stop him anyway. So.
And then when Gronk caught that pass, there's you've heard the outcry that the Chiefs should have let him score to leave themselves a little bit of time. And it's kind of a tough deal. When you're close, when you're close to the goal line, I think it's something you can prepare for, like the Patriots did in the Super Bowl against the Giants. But I mean, that was like a 40-yard play. Like I mean, when they're at midfield, Andy Reid's probably not going to tell them to let them score. It's probably not at the top of the list of things you're thinking about.
Yeah, well, we can only hope for a rematch in the playoffs. But I mean, somebody on that KC squad's just on defense got to step up and make one play, like you see with New England. He's not a Pro Bowler, but the guy's going to go down as a Patriot legend, Dante Hightower. If it wasn't for him, you guys might be looking at 3-5 in the Super Bowls. He made those 2 key plays in the Super Bowl. The one where he stopped Lynch right before the Butler interception, and then when he caused the fumble on Ryan. Those are 2 huge plays, and that interception in the first half. He may not be like a Hall of Fame linebacker, but he's got that knack for making that key play. He's definitely going to be go down in the Patriots Ring of Honor or whatever.
Yeah, I mean he's got his limitations, like you say. I mean he's not the fastest guy in the world to say the least.
But the Chiefs don't even have that. Like somebody Barry can't stay on the field. He would be the big playmaker and Houston was hurt too, right? Is he? Yeah. Yep. So
and they let Peters walk. I mean, they could. He's a head case, but they could use him.
Yeah. So somebody's got to step up and just make a stop or something, or something like with the Eagles last night, like a Brandon Graham just made the one play and that was enough. They're going to need somebody like that to step up if they want to beat him if there's a rematch. But I have a feeling we're all going to be all hyped for it, and the Ravens or somebody will spoil the
Ravens. The Ravens will beat the Patriots and spoil the Ravens.
I'm neutral. I'm not a hatred. Well,
I'm just looking at history. If there's one team, if there's one team we want no part of in New England, it's Flacco and the boys.
Yeah, Harbaugh.
For KC, I think home field's real important for them, even more so than other teams, because the defense seems to play a little better at home, kind of beat off the crowd. And to your point, it's not like they have to be they don't have to be the 85 Bears. They probably literally just get 2 stops during the game, and and KC's going to win most of the time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. KC the rest of the way. The big one is November 19th, Monday night versus the Rams in Mexico. That's going to be a potential Super Bowl preview, and also they got the Ravens on the schedule, and also
this
they have
week.
some gimme. They have some gimmies on the schedule. I see Arizona's on there.
That is a gimme. It's a big gimme.
And, they got the Raiders twice. So.
2 gimmies.
Yeah, so home field is within their grasp.
Yeah, so this week, very good game. I mean, Cincinnati's going to Kansas City. You have to favor the Chiefs, but the Bengals, I mean, it's kind of one of those games last week where they didn't play bad. They just Pittsburgh got
the
them.
Steelers just got a hex on them. Yeah, they just got a hex on them.
Pittsburgh got him. Perfect was out there doing perfect things. He's a good player, but I don't know if he fires up the other team so much that it becomes a detriment to him. But if I were the Chiefs this week, I wouldn't be sending Tyreek Hill over the middle. I'll just say that. Just keep him on the outside for 1 week. But the Natty's playing good, and their offense especially has been playing good. And we do know that Chiefs defense is vulnerable. So, I mean, Kansas City rightfully is the favorite, but it wouldn't completely shock me if the Bengals went in there and won. How about you?
No, I'd be shocked, but it does seem the Bengals play better on the road. And also it's just the Bengals are so mentally weak. They had Pittsburgh down on a 3rd and 10 as Pittsburgh's driving, and there was a little ticky-tack penalty. Sure, it was a rough call in that situation, but they just can't overcome it. Once that Pittsburgh got the first down on that penalty, they just broke down. You could see them saying, "Oh, woe is us! The Steelers are going to beat us again." They're just so mentally weak that even if they do surprise and make the playoffs, you know that Marvin and the boys they're just gonna bite it in the first round. So it's tough to get emotionally involved.
It's true. It's true. I mean, they have a chance to flip the script this week. If they could go into Kansas City and get a win, then a lot of the stuff you're saying kind of goes away, I think. But,
yeah,
and the thing with the Chiefs is they are vulnerable because of the defense. They're just similar to the Patriots in that a team with a good offense theoretically can go in there and just outscore them. I mean, the way the Bengals offense is playing, I mean, it's not out of the question that they put up 40 against the Chiefs D.
If the Bengals could play like they do against the Ravens every week,
it's true.
They'd be in business.
So that's a great game. That's a Sunday night game. Unfortunately, you and I, well, I'm not going to say unfortunately. Fortunately, because of a little event we're going to, you and I we'll have to catch the replay. We'll be keeping track on the old cell phone as we're heading into Beantown.
That's more a game for you fantasy guys. I'm really not into those 50-30 games. I like a little more defense, a little more coaching strategy and stuff. I'm a basic old school, I guess, boring guy.
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of defense in that game.
I think it's going to be a one-sided Chiefs game.
All right. We'll see. I think the Bengals will keep it close. I think the Chiefs will win, but I think the Bengals will keep it close. Patriots this week. This game had a lot more of a marquee matchup feel to it until last week. But Patriots going into Chicago, the Monsters of the Midway. They were looking good, a lot of momentum, defense playing great, Trubisky coming off a huge performance, and then they ran into the Brock Star. Brock Osweiler scores 31 points against your vaunted Chicago Bears defense. I rarely am I shocked in the NFL because there's so much parity and things can just happen, like things like Andy Dalton looking like a Pro Bowl quarterback, right? That kind of thing happens. Brock Osweiler winning that game, color me shocked. That had shutout written all over it, and the Bears. I mean, what a putrid performance. What was your takeaway there?
I'm going to give them a mulligan because of the 90-degree heat. I'll just say it's a 1 week thing, but we'll see this week as it looks like Mac's going to be out, huh?
Hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's a big that's another big thing. I mean, yeah, if he's out there, their defense is that's a big difference. But then again, the first game versus Green Bay, you saw they fell apart in the second half too. So maybe it's not just the Heat. But to the big thing, the big play in this game was they were up 21-13, and they had the ball on the Miami 5-yard line. They score a touchdown to go up 28-13. It's called back for an offensive pass interference. And the next play, Mitch throws a true biscuit right into the arms of McDonald, the Dolphins defender.
Just
and
a
that turns the game
brutal penalty.
When you're up by 8 points in the fourth quarter, when you're up by one score in the fourth quarter, you have to do everything you can to go up 2 scores, which basically will salt the game away, because at that point it looked like nobody was going to stop each other. So if you go up 2 scores there, that's pretty much game right there. As a young quarterback, you can't throw that interception and turn the ball over. And what happens? Miami took it right down, and not only did they Brock score, they scored the 2-point conversion easy, and then they're on their way.
Yeah, I mean
that was quite a turnaround.
Yeah, I mean Miami. I mean they have to be. They're 4-2, tied for the division lead. I mean Tannehill's going to miss a few weeks. There's no way Brock gets hot here, right, and keeps the job. He's got Matty Patricia and the boys coming into Miami this week.
Well, he did throw a signature Brock pick six, so his game wasn't all perfect. He threw a Brock like a pick six. But I want to get back on the Bears. Have you ever seen that before? The Bears are doing their AFC East run where they play all 4 of the AFC East games in a row. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, that's got to be a kind of a quirk of the schedule. Yeah. Very weird.
And it helps them that they got the 2 tougher ones, the Jets and New England. They have at home at least, so they have that in their favor. But unfortunately, looks like Mac will be out with New England, which it's a tough ask. To ask Trubisky, a young quarterback, to beat Bill. You know his record against quarterbacks under 25.
Yeah, and I mean, in Chicago helps them, but I think less so against the Patriots than against some other teams with a veteran team. I mean, I think I don't see how the Patriots lose this game.
Yeah, they're not going to have a 90-degree heat to fall back on as an excuse. I don't think it's going to be 90 in Chicago this Sunday. So
no way.
The defense is going to have to step up without Mac. And
their offense. I mean, their offense is going to have to put up points, which they should be able to do against the Patriots. But I see Trubisky making a mistake or two, and this being a pretty comfortable win for the Pats.
They should still be in good shape if they could get the next 2, the Jets and at home, and then squeak one out, and then they have to go on the road and beat Buffalo. They'll still be in good shape. The Bears to contend for the rest of the way.
It's an ugly loss, John, and it's an ugly loss that I'm not going to forget anytime soon when I'm doing my analysis and thinking about who are the contenders and the pretenders.
The contenders.
I did not mean it like that, but that's what you're here for. That's what you're here for. Mine's always in the gutter, this guy.
I can't let that one slide.
So they are, for me, they're pretenders right now. And I'm sorry for any of our listeners that are Bears fans, but, put up a fight this week and maybe we'll get back on the train. But that's inexcusable to lose to Brock Osweiler. Completely inexcusable.
Yeah, and in that division, I see the Packers have a bye week, and then they have KC and the Patriots back to back. So I'm looking at the Vikings to take a chokehold on that division there.
Yeah,
in the upcoming weeks.
Completely agree. Because I mean, we talk about Green Bay. I mean, Rodgers stood on his head. Hell of a comeback.
Just to beat the 49ers.
But that's the thing. I mean, it was. I thought the 49ers played well. Kyle Shanahan's a good offensive coach. Their offense looks like, I don't know what it says about Garoppolo, but the offense hasn't taken too big of a step back with C.J. Beathard. So, hey, Beathard's competent, but their defense is a mess. And the Packers at home, where the Packers defense is supposed to be pretty good, not great, but at least reasonable.
Speaking of a
bad performance, another bad performance.
Yeah, speaking of a mess, the Packers they got a new DC, Pettin, And they brought in some guys, but it's still the same every year. The Packers defense just soft. Rodgers has to stand on his head just to beat the 49ers.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's good enough where they could still they might make the playoffs, but I don't see them as a true threat, true contender.
No, me neither, unless they could shore up that defense.
Which probably isn't going to happen. Be honest about it. If C.J. Beathard's looking like a prime Joe Montana out there, he's not the Brock star, but
yeah, he's surprised though. I got to give him credit. What little I've seen of him, he's a competent backup.
Yeah, and he's only in his second year. I mean, with the with some of the guys you see getting trot out there, it's not unreasonable that he could maybe land a starting gig somewhere in the future.
Sure. We've seen a lot worse in the past. We saw what happened with the Texans the last few years when Watson went down. The dreck they brought out there, guys like Savage and Hoyer, etc. Beathard looked like friggin' Joe Montana compared to a lot of the dreck we've seen out there.
Absolutely true. So speaking of the Texans, another,
you like how I lead you. You like how I segue you.
We're a well-oiled machine here on This Week in the NFL. That's how we squeeze it in an hour. Both of us love to talk. We go through everything. It's because we're as one, John. We're like one cohesive unit.
I got to correct it. I really don't like to talk. I'd rather listen, but
I'm your guy then. Yeah. I'm your guy. Just sit back.
Yeah.
I love hearing my own voice.
But I will get in the Texans. Has there ever been a least impressive 3-game winning streak in the history of the NFL than the Texans are on right now?
This last game specifically. I mean, this game set football back 25 years.
You Google worst 3-game winning streak of all time. I think these three got to come up. But hey, you are what your record is, like Parcells always says.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with them is, they have talent. So like if
defensively, sure.
And so if they can get their shit together, they winning these games is big for them. But what an awful game! Just what a terrible game to watch. I'm sure it was awful to participate in. The Bills go into Houston. The Bills had the game. The Bills had them. Josh Allen goes down. Josh Allen, who hasn't exactly set the world on fire, mind you. So Josh Allen goes down, and poor Peterman, the guy's just a walking interception. Like it's, you'd be better off just taking knees and punting than having him throw passes. It's you feel bad. I know he was when he was coming out of Pitt. This should have been a clue for all of us that he might not make it. I remember Gruden does the QB camp. I'm sure you've watched the QB camp.
Yeah.
Yep. So he was real high on Peterman. Called him the most pro ready quarterback in the draft. Predicted he'd go 3 rounds higher than he did. And given what we've seen from Gruden, that should have been a precursor to this poor guy being the worst of the worst quarterback I've ever seen.
As soon as Allen went down, that was the Texans' strategy, just to punt as fast as possible. Even if you have to punt on 3rd down, just get it right back to get the ball back to Peterman. And
to be fair, he did throw a touchdown pass. He threw a nice touchdown pass.
Yeah,
he
put
Zay
him ahead,
Jones,
sure.
But then he immediately followed that up by throwing in a touchdown pass to Jonathan Joseph.
And this week, Derek Anderson gets the start. A guy who was doing the same thing we're doing right now, sitting on his ass a week ago, and now he's going to be starting this week.
Oh, he's way better than Peterman. Indy's defense isn't that bad. It isn't very good. It wouldn't completely shock me if Anderson won that game. He was a pretty competent backup in Carolina.
Yes.
He throws picks, but not like Peterman.
No, and Arizona too. He was quite competent, but just the fact that he's got to be rusty. He hasn't played, and he wasn't even active up until this week.
They just signed him 6 days ago. So
yeah, now he's starting.
This week in the NFL, seal of approval: rusty Derek Anderson 1,000 times better than Trot and Nate Peterman out there. Agreed?
True.
It's a hot take. I don't think it's that hot.
All the credit in the world, though, has got to go to McDermott at Buffalo, just to keep that squad competitive weekly. And he squeezed a couple wins out of him. And I'm sure he'll squeeze a couple more. He'll squeeze like a 5-11 out of him. And that's kudos to him.
Yeah, their defense has been playing well, really. And it's just offensively they got nothing.
Yeah, they got a good front four. They got Hughes, Williams, Murphy. They've all racked up some sacks. So.
Yeah, McCoy had a good game. If he could get rolling a little bit. I mean, Indy hasn't looked great. I mean, like I said, it wouldn't be. I think Indy will win the game, but it wouldn't be like a massive shock to me if Buffalo went in there and got it done.
Yeah, Indy's Luck practically has to pass the ball to himself. He had those.
T.Y. Hilton's back this week.
Yeah, that was with 10 drops in there, and he still put up the numbers. But Indy, not this year. But Indy's future looks bright. They're actually a Leonard and a Hooker.
I told you about Hooker, stud.
Yeah, and I don't want to say about stud, but they were making some plays in the first half to keep him in the game. But eventually, they just fell apart versus the Jets.
Yeah, and I mean, Luck. Like I think all Indy really cares about this year is that Luck looks okay, and he is. Because with him, they can get the pieces around him. I mean, but it's just a matter of him being healthy. And there was some question early in the year, but he's healthy enough to throw the ball 70 times a game and put up some numbers. All right, we'll just touch on this real quick because I know we said we weren't going to talk about these teams, but it just brings me so much joy to see. We had our first London game. Everybody loves the London games. Only one team appeared to have actually made the trip, though, because the Seahawks just throttled the Raiders, 27-3. The Seahawks, who frankly have not looked very good, and certainly haven't been putting ass whoopings on people like this. The Raiders looked like a high school team, offensively, defensively. Carr looked bad. I said Gruden wouldn't make it through the season. I know he's got a big contract, but
he's already fist fighting with his GM, throwing his GM under the bus, and just what a mess. The game was won with the travel itinerary. I think Pete Carroll had his team fly in like on a Wednesday, and I think Gruden had his team fly in like on a Friday, just giving them like 1 day of preparation. So, and you could tell one team came out flat and one team came out. It was 21-0 before within a blink of the eye.
When Pete Carroll's running strategic circles around you, it's time to consider a new profession. But yeah, awful. Just an off. Maybe at this point they're better off just getting the number one pick, the Raiders. Maybe they can get someone similar to Khalil Mack.
A pass rusher, yeah. Well, in all fairness, their defense is horrendous, but it seems like Arden Key is going to be a player. He's about the only guy I see that's around the ball that's doing anything. A rookie pass rusher, defensive lineman, Arden Key. Keep an eye on him. Maybe if your team needs a pass rush, maybe you could trade it to Gruden for a 7th-round pick or something.
Older guy, right? Some big name who doesn't produce anymore. That's what Gruden's after.
Not much to say about that, man.
No. But anyway, that was our weekly Raiders update. I hope all the Raiders fans out there enjoyed it. We've had our finger on the pulse with them, John, since the preseason.
Bold prediction: they won't lose this week.
That's it. 100% true. So, kind of the wonky.
You heard it here first.
Other than Bears Dolphins, kind of the wonkiest game of the week. I was not too surprised with the end result, but just kind of the final score and just the way the game went was Dallas just beating the hell out of Jacksonville, dominating them on both sides of the ball, taking it to that Jaguars D, that vaunted Jaguars D, just did not show up at all. I mean, Dallas's offense outside of Zeke has been pretty anemic, and Prescott looked like it was 2016. It was just, I mean, Cole Beasley was doing his Wes Welker all over the field. I mean, just they couldn't cover Cole Beasley. Zeke had a good game, and and they couldn't get anything done against the Cowboys D. So, what were your thoughts on this? An aberration, or the Cowboys really putting things together? Maybe a sign that the Jags are not who we maybe thought they were.
Did you hear what Jalen Ramsey's thoughts on that was?
He didn't have many.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
If you're going to talk like he does, if you're going to talk beforehand like he does, and I mean, I think he's entertaining. I think he's a great player. But if you're going to talk beforehand, you got to be willing to stand there and accept defeat. Afterward, it's a typical like dish it out and can't take it guy.
And I know this isn't too intriguing. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I hate to keep agreeing with everything, but and also have more than 2 playoff wins in your pocket before you run off your mouth like you're a 3-time Super Bowl champion or something. But you hit it right on the head. You gotta speak up after a loss. You can't just be a dick and say I don't know. But hey, kudos to the Cowboys, because they've been. They haven't had a home field advantage the last 5 years. They've only been, for the past 5 years, they've only been 500 at home, and they've been well over about 10 to 12 games over 500 on the road. They've played much better on the road the last 5 years. But this year, they're laying the wood to people at home. They're finally embracing their home field advantage. And this was just a Zach and a Zeke and Dak show. And they went to the 25th. They put the Wayback machine back to 2015, where they had Zach doing the Dak. I keep saying the Zach. Sorry, Prescott. Dak doing the read option. They kind of brought that back, which has kind of going out of style since 2014 or 15, since the Kaepernick glory days and Dak's first year. But they kind of went back to it more with Prescott in motion more, and they just shredded the Jaguars defense.
Yeah, it worked like a charm, right? So, what are your thoughts on Jacksonville? They're sitting at 3-3 now. Everybody pegged them a Super Bowl contender. They're not looking like it. Do you think it's an aberration, or you think they're going to turn things around?
I think they're going to turn things around only because nobody else is going to step up in that division. I overhyped the Texans and the Titans, and they look like it's going to be a muck of mediocrity in that division. 9-7 is going to take it, and whoever wins those division games is going to come out ahead. So I think eventually Jacksonville's defense will carry them through. But they need a Fournette back. They need some type of playmaker on offense to give Bortles a hand there, because he can't carry a team. He can carry a team, but he can make enough plays to win. But he's not going to carry you to a win.
Yeah, so real interesting game this week. Hot off the presses, Fournette was ruled out about 10 minutes before we got on the air, so he won't be playing. Both teams, even though one of them coming in, like you said, on a 3-game winning streak, both teams limping in. Houston at Jacksonville. Huge game division-wise, just an absolutely massive game as far as the division. Based on what you said there, I'm guessing you're thinking this is going Jacksonville's way, and tough not to agree. I mean, both offensives have just looked so bad that I guess you go with the team with the better defense. Watson played one of the worst games I've ever seen a quarterback play in that quote unquote win against the Bills. That it's tough to see him going into Jacksonville and doing anything. So I guess you got to like the Jags in a game that's probably not super entertaining. What do you think?
I definitely would go with the Jaguars, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Texans they finally put a good game together after just squeaking by after 3 mediocre wins. Maybe this is the week they put their offensive line that does a little. Although that's a tough ask versus the brutal front four of Jacksonville. But maybe their offensive line gets it together and they put a good game. But I would lean towards the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, as schizophrenic as Bortles is, I mean, in that offense, I mean, there's definitely a scenario where Houston wins the game 20-17 or something like that, where he throws it up to Hopkins a couple times, and Bortles turns it over a couple of times, and
a lot of these games are so tough to pick between these mediocre teams. Like even last night, you could have went with the Cardinals.
Some of us did, John. Some of us did.
You figure the home team on a short week, the home team's going to take the Thursday. So with these mediocre games, it's just flipping a coin, and nobody's a genius and nobody's an idiot after the game. There's just some things you can't call. Even guys that get paid millions of dollars on TV in Vegas, and these prognosticators and these Nostradamuses, they don't. You never know what's going to happen.
I mean, I'll eat a little crow. I mean, I did. I picked the Cardinals to win that game, and I mean my rationale was simple. You have Denver coming in on a 4-game losing streak, right? 4-game losing streak where they looked awful. It's not like, I mean, I guess they played okay against the Rams, but not really. I mean, their defense played good, but going to Arizona's defense has played at least reasonably well, and in my mind, it was okay when you have two shit teams. Go with the home. Go with the home team, right? I mean,
It was the worst rushing offense in the league, which was Arizona, versus the worst rushing defense in the league.
It was the other thing. Yeah. Well, then I figured, hey, maybe David Johnson can get it going, but consider, it is what it is. It is what it is. Denver's probably not as bad as that 4-game losing streak, and Arizona is every bit as bad as their record indicates.
Yeah, it looks like Johnson got that big 3 years, $39 million, but it looks like he peaked about 2 years ago. And last week he was out with his injury, and it's a bad storm of an awful
he's a
offensive
young guy.
line.
I think it's another. Not everybody's Saquon Barkley that can do it when you just have zero offensive line. I mean, if you watched the game last night, I mean, Rosen played terrible, but I mean, he got hit, I think, on like almost half of his dropbacks. I mean, he's just running for his life the whole game, and Johnson was getting hit right when he got the ball. It's tough.
It's a first-year coach. Years ago, you're like a coach gets a year or two, but nowadays, when a guy looks like lost like this, it may be a one and done.
They canned the offensive coordinator today,
right.
McCoy.
And if they after the year, if they ice the GM, then the new GM might want to bring in another guy. So the Paul Wilk, he may just be a one and done. He's already panicking, firing offensive coordinators. It's a rough one.
So I'm sure this happens to you sometimes. Things just happen that make me feel old and make me realize how old I am. And Byron Leftwich being named the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals makes me feel like I'm about 1,000 years old. Because I remember loving him at Marshall and being high on him for the Jags, and like, wow, this guy is like old enough to
he had some moments. Didn't he beat the Steelers playoff game? Maybe.
Yeah, was it at Marshall or was it in the NFL where they were picking him up and because he had hurt like his hamstring, so the offensive linemen were picking him up and carrying him?
Yeah, that was at Marshall, but he had some moments with the Jaguars.
Yeah, big arm. Always had a big arm. Yeah. Slow delivery. Didn't get out quick enough, but now he's there to. I mean, he can't be any worse than McCoy, right? I mean, I guess he was a disciple of Bruce Arians, and the Cardinals' offense looked about a million times better when Bruce Arians was there. So
we spent enough time on the Cardinals.
We did.
I don't know how.
We're breaking our own rule. It's what we do. It's our show, John. We can do whatever we want. So taking a look at this week, Carolina are at Philadelphia. Another good game. The Panthers. Yeah, I don't know if it's – and I think this speaks to the mediocre – it's so difficult to call these mediocre games. How can a team that look as bad as the Redskins looked the previous week against New Orleans. Like, they couldn't have looked worse. They looked every bit as bad as the Cardinals did last night. And that was Monday Night Football, right? Monday Night Football, come back on Sunday and beat Carolina. And they beat them pretty easy. I mean, Carolina came back at the end, but the Redskins were ahead the whole game. And it was like an easy win for them.
Yeah, the Redskins defense, every other week they show up. They're on that win-loss deal, kind of like the Cowboys. So, which is curious because they both play each other. So, and they're both they're both the only two teams that haven't put together like a 2-game winning streak or a 2-game losing streak. So that's either gonna end this week where the Cowboys win 2 in a row, or the Redskins are gonna finally break the win-loss thing and win 2 in a row.
I mean, in Washington, it's still difficult not to like the Cowboys. I mean, just based on what you're seeing, I think the Cowboys' defense is actually, they very slowly they've sold me. So this is gonna, but I mean, this has all the makings of a divisional rock fight kind of game that could go either way, come down to the end. Not a lot of points. It's one of your kind of games, John. A lot of defense, a lot of running.
I've been high on the Cowboys defense all year. DeMarcus Lawrence is a beast, and Jalen Smith is emerging.
He's so fast, isn't he?
Yes, he's emerging as quite a playmaker. And if they get Sean Lee when he's in the 10 games, on the 9 or 10 games that he's healthy, their defense is a force. And then they've kind of owned the Redskins over the years, and with mostly the same offensive line and Zeke Elliott. So I'm going to lean towards the Cowboys in this one.
All right, we've been doing a lot of agreeing here, John.
That's not good.
We've been talking too much. You start agreeing with me, you're going to make all sorts of incorrect predictions, and you'll end up being like the kind of fan that, like, when your team wins, you won't have anything to bitch about. Like, I don't know. I don't want you to fall into that trap.
I wish the season would end today while I'm towards the top of the picks, because I have a feeling it's going to go down. It's going to go downhill.
The other Cowboy Senior he's tough in these kind of things. He just is. These
young cats these days, they're more fantasy driven. So Senior's old school.
Senior.
Yeah, he plays fantasy too, but
he's
also
a beast.
He's got his old school roots where he also studies the lines and the defenses and also who's going to win. He's not a one trick pony. These young cats are just about the big names and the fantasy stats.
I'll give you the inside scoop on how Senior does so well.
Uh-oh.
He's like a vampire. The rest of us only have 16 hours a day to watch sports. Senior's got 21. The guy doesn't sleep. So that's think about that. Think about that multiplied by 60 years, and that's a whole lot of knowledge. Whole lot of extra tape viewing.
3 hours a day. Who was that? Who was the coach that slept in the office?
Vermeil, Dick
office?
Vermeil.
Yeah.
There it is. Look, I mean, he came back. He won that. He's like one of the few success stories of guys who were, like Gruden, out of the game for a while.
Oh yeah, the only one that came back and won a show.
All right, so we have we haven't even talked about this game. It might be the this week in the NFL marquee matchup. New Orleans at Baltimore. Real interesting game. The Ravens look good. The Saints coming off a bye, but the Saints also with a history of not being very good on the road in on grass, right? And we're in that kind of scenario. The Ravens defense, I mean, just destroyed the Titans last week, which is no huge accomplishment, but they did. So real interesting game. Like, I think this is one where I think you see a lot of less astute folks maybe all over New Orleans in this one, whereas I think Baltimore kind of smacks him in the mouth and takes it. I think the Saints defense hasn't been great. Flacco looks rejuvenated. His receivers are playing well. Their line's playing well. Their two-headed running back is playing well, and I think that defense, especially if it was in New Orleans, it would be a different story. But I think in Baltimore, I think the Ravens get it done.
The Saints are fortunate to be 4-1. They could very easily have lost the Cleveland game and the Atlanta game. They could easily be sitting at 2-3 with the Ravens, and then next week Minnesota, and a week after that they got the Rams, followed by Cincy and Philly, and Atlanta again, and Dallas. So they're in a tough scheduling stretch here.
That's brutal. I mean, they can beat anybody, but are they playing the Rams in New Orleans?
Yeah, they're home.
That's a hell of a game.
Yes.
Well, that'll be one that you're not going to like that much, because that's going to be a no punt special.
No right defense, there. Yeah. But I'm even looking forward to next week. Will be the Stephon Diggs revenge game, or at Minnesota again, or the House of Horrors game, where they've been hearing that horn. They've been hearing that skull horn since last January. But
especially if Minnesota's got a tough game this week going to New York to play the Jets. If Minnesota comes in on a win, streaking, I mean that's a great game. That's a great game.
Yeah, but the Saints have played better on the road recently. But again, I have to agree with you. I would lean towards the Ravens. I like how Ladarius Thomas, their pass rushes, along with it's Zadarius Smith. I'm sorry, and had a huge monster game. He's giving them that rush with Suggs. So I like the Ravens here too.
Man, this is getting scary, my friend. So for for our listeners, you probably, if you listen to this in time, you probably just want to go the other way. Go the other way on everything we agree on. Given our history.
What about Vikings Jets? I already know where you're going to go here, and unfortunately, once again, I'm going to go the same way.
I mean,
the Jets have played well.
The Jets have played well.
The Jets
have played well, but I think this is too much too. I think it's too much. I just don't think they can keep up with the Vikings. The Vikings offense is playing great, and their defense is just good enough, I think, to turn Darnold over a couple times. I think it'll be a good game, but I very difficult for me to not see the Vikings winning this game.
Yeah, I wish Marcus May was playing for the Jets, because you need a big safety to get some knocks on Thielen and Diggs. But the Jets have played real well. This is they took advantage. They got their season back on track. When you get that 3 games at home early, you got to at least take 2 of them. So they did that there, and they made something of their season. And if they win this one, then they're really on their way there, because they got some winnable games ahead. At Chicago, if Mac is still out, they got a fighting chance at that. At Miami, they usually split versus the Dolphins, so they already lost the first one, so they're going to look for revenge and probably take that one. And then they got Buffalo at home on the 11th before their bye. So the Jets, if they could go 3-1 in that stretch and be 6-4, you got to feel good as a Jet fan. And plus, with Darnold, you're going to be feeling good for the next 10 years as a Jet fan.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's the real deal. I think Baker. Yeah. I think Baker's the real deal too. He's having some growing pains, but he's the real deal too. Yeah, Rosen, and it's tough for Rosen and Allen because the offenses the lines and stuff are just so bad that it's tough to really tell. You just hope it doesn't ruin those guys.
Especially Allen's running for his life. I hate to say it, but I predicted that he was going to get hurt by week 8, and he didn't even make it to week 8. He got hurt in week 6.
Oh yeah, I mean their best offensive play is him taking on a linebacker.
That's not going to be a long career. But there's a lot of success with these young quarterbacks, and there's a lot of competition on who's the best and who's this. But right now, it's just to get your teams to respectability. And even though you could say, we're going to be fine with Darnold for the next 10 years, whatever, you still every year you want to win. And if you're sitting at 3-3, and if you go 3-1, if you're sitting at 6-4, you're like, hey, we're in it. We could be a wild card, and who knows?
Well, the thing with the NFL is, you're exactly right, is that every year there's teams that nobody expected to be there that are there, and every year there are teams that everybody expected to be there that aren't there. That if you're a decent team, if you're a good team, you gotta strike while the iron's hot. It's not like the NBA where you go into a 3-year rebuild. You're not supposed to, right? You're playing every year.
Oh, you're not supposed to? Tell that to my Knicks. Oh, that's another. That's for the NBA team podcast. I'm sorry.
No. The NBA you are supposed to, but in the NFL, it's we've seen so many worst to firsts that you gotta try. I mean, like think of who's the worst team in the league this year, right?
The Giants,
Buffalo, or Arizona, probably.
Or the Giants.
Like, would it completely shock you if one of them made the playoffs next year? It wouldn't shock me at all.
No.
Speaking of which, we're getting toward the end of the podcast here. It's been great as always, John. Seeing as we're going to see each other on Sunday, I'd like to extend the invitation now. If you'd like to come stay at the Casa de Cowboy, we could watch Monday Night Football together. Maybe do like a live podcast check-in. Any interest there?
Are you prepared to bring a body out of your? I don't want to do that to the lovely missus. Have a 911, and there might be a suicide in the new house. I don't want to break in. It's tough to sell a house when you have a chalk outline in it. So I don't want to put you through that.
So fun fact that the listeners might not know. I bought our house here is an older, very, very, very old house from like the early 1800s. And it's funny that John said that. He doesn't even know this, but one of the first uses of the house, it was both the police station and the Undertaker. Wow. So not the WWE Undertaker, but if you look on the outside of my house, there's a door that's not used anymore, and there's a space underneath the door that's boarded up where they used to slide the bodies in.
Oh, okay. So after I watch the Giant game, you could just slide me under there.
But so I think you guys will put up some points, but you probably give up some points too. So we said we weren't going to talk about him too much, so we're not. I just have one question. Just want your take because it is in the news and it's topical. What did you think of? And I know you're not a big fan of duking it out in the media, and so I wasn't a big fan of what Odell Beckham did. I think I was less of a fan of what the owner did to kind of continue the conversation and also go through the media. For those who didn't know, John Mara came out and basically said Odell should stick to. Gave him the stick to football and not talking, essentially. Just real quick, your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on that that was not a good look for the owner because then it just keeps it going for another week because since that stupid Lil Wayne interview, Beckham's been quiet, so just now he added more fuel to the fire, and it's not a good look. The owner's losing points every year. It's not looking good, and he wants to protect his quarterback because who's taking all the blame for it, and much of it is deserved, but it's a lot of it falls on his shoulders, and he's having regrets about already giving Beckham the contract. And but the Beckham is what he was before he signed the contract. He's not a leader. He's going to say stupid things, and he's going to do more stuff off the field than on the field, and it's not going to change.
All right, John. Thank you for that. Completely agree with everything you said there. So, you have any closing thoughts?
Have any closing thoughts? Not really. It's just I'm enjoying to watch other games, and thank God for the red zone, and thank God for other games besides the Giants, because it's not enjoyable to watch right now. There's a black cloud over the team, but with that they may luck into, even though it's not the plan, but it looks like they're going to luck into another 3-13, another 4-12, and they're going to have a top pick, and next year they could get that quarterback because all the top quarterbacks would take the top 10 teams in the draft. They already have their quarterback. They got it this year, so maybe next year the Giants will have the pick of the litter, and they could get one of the top 2 quarterbacks coming out. I'm watching a lot of Oregon games. Justin Herbert is.
That's the guy.
Also, I like Haskins from Ohio State too. Hopefully, he'll step up. So,
or you could trade for C.J. Beathard.
No, and another thing, I'm hearing Jason La Confun said that the Giants are going to trade a first-round draft pick for Derek Carr, and you're really going to need that space under your fucking house to put if that's the case.
I missed that report. Is that a legitimate thing?
Jason La
said that?
Unfortunately, yeah. He said not only will the Giants get David Carr, they're going to trade like a first-round pick for him. I'm like, come on now. You got to be kidding. You're going to need that space under the house. So.
That's ugly. All right. So I don't think I can top that, except great show. Great show as always. I'm really looking forward to Week 7. All's right in the world here in Boston. I got a big smile on my face for just a number of different reasons, and not the least of which is that I'm hanging out with my co-host over this weekend. So, John, I will see you Sunday. We'll be in the heart of it all. We'll be able to discuss the games as they're happening, and listeners, we'll talk next week. So for John, I'm the Cowboy, and that was This Week in the NFL.
Yes, sir. Peace.